Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Inlay Terms. I'm your host, Payman Asghari, and with us today is a fellow PPC candidate and a doctor, Dr. Vageesh Sabharwal. How are you doing?
I'm excellent, Payman. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I did not know you're a doctor. That's pretty cool. What kind of doctor?
I'm a dental surgeon.
Ooh, my the one I fear the most. Like you go in there and you hear that high power drill. Like, get me out of here.
Nothing to fear when you're in good hands.
No, fair enough. I always tell the dentist, I'm like, just knock me out, man. Give me as much of the painkillers as you can.
Well, in modern day dentistry, not too many painkillers are required. So things have changed quite a bit. Unfortunately, the perception hasn't.
Uh, Also, I'm a bit of a baby, so I get scared very easily. I guess you can't really prescribe anything for that, though.
I can't.
Uh, Um, let's see. Why don't we start with telling the audience a little about yourself? So start with I see your writings down there, but if you could tell us what your writing is, and you can go into as much detail as you want, where you grew up, where you went to school, what you're doing now.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for the opportunity, Payman, for me to be on your show. My name is Vageesh Sabharwal. I was born and raised in Toronto, went to school, did my undergraduate degree in Toronto, did my dental studies also at the University of Toronto. Ever since I graduated, I've been practicing uh, my art in Vaughan. Vaughan used to be one riding, but because the population has grown, it's split into two ridings, Vaughan Woodbridge and King-Vaughan. My family is in King-Vaughan. Like I said, I've practiced here. I know a lot of individuals. I know the points which are the pain points for the individuals who live in this riding. Uh, Having said that, the reason why I have gotten involved in the political sphere is because I am finding that the opportunities that I had while I was growing up are no longer available to young individuals, such as my children, such as the children of my colleagues, even my patients who are in their 20s. There's a malaise out there, and I don't believe that's good for the immediate and future for for any Canadian. So that's why I'm involved in this.
Let's go through that backwards. You mentioned that the youth nowadays don't have the opportunities you had.
Mhm.
What are you referring to? Specifically housing, or is there something else?
Housing, everybody points to housing. However, just ask yourself, do you find people are happy these days? Do you find people are confident that they have a good future? It's a simple question.
If it's not rhetorical, then no, I don't find people are happy.
So then it all emanates from that. It emanates from if the youth, if anybody doesn't have a feeling of positivity, you're not in a good situation. And that's not the Canada I grew up in. I knew, I was confident if I worked hard, something good's going to come out of it. I don't believe that sentiment is there for a majority of individuals through no fault of their own.
No, it's a fair point. If you see me looking off to the side of the screen, I'm in a hotel room right now. I have a laptop. So I'm just reading the comments. And to the audience, I might not get to the comments as much. Prairie, hello. I thank you. I try to dress my best for you, Prairie. So thanks for noticing. Um, going back to, you mentioned the pain points, the pain points for your constituents. Can you tell us what they are? And I'll tell you what mine are so you can have some time to think it through. When I talk to the voters in my riding, for men, the issue is the economy, so taxation, tariffs, taxation, inflation, and regulation. And then for women, it's the poor access to healthcare and what the nonsense that's going on in the schools. What are the top three pain points in your riding?
The first and foremost is a feeling of lack of security. Crime rates where we are have gone up through the roof. In particular, individuals are having to hire private security so that their neighborhoods are protected. So that's a major issue. Taxation is a significant issue here as well, as is certain facets of immigration. So those are our three main sticking points, which the individuals in King-Vaughan seem to be quite concerned about.
So when you say Vaughan, you're talking just north of Toronto?
It's like, yes, north of Toronto.
I used to live on Bathurst and Steeles. Where are you?
I'm at Nashville and Highway 27. So if you go north of Steeles, that's York Region.
Okay.
Steeles is the northernmost point of Toronto.
Oh, that's the boundary. Okay.
Yes.
Well, the reason I bring it up, when I was there, it wasn't, this was in 2001, 2002. It wasn't a very particularly dangerous area. Like, there were some sketchy kids running around, but it sounds like you're describing a war zone. What's changed?
It's not a war zone. It's that what people are afraid to simply park their car outside of their house because they're afraid that someone's going to steal it. And when they do see someone taking their private property and they call the police asks them, "A, are you safe? And if you're safe, do you have insurance?" Is that acceptable? I don't. I
Are the
don't
police,
believe it is.
aren't the police supposed to be your insurance policy? If something goes wrong, you call them?
I would assume that's where taxpayer dollars should be going to. At least part of your taxpayer dollars should be going towards police and to your legal system.
That's horrific. I thought that was like just something that was exaggerated online. There was that incident where the police, was it the OPP, said leave your car keys by your door?
Yeah. Well, when those statements are given, that tells you we're not in a good situation.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's kind of terrifying. So those are the top three issues in your writing. I was not expecting that. I thought you were going to give an answer almost exactly like mine. Shows how different our different provinces are.
Well, different provinces, even cities. If you go east of us, if you go to a portion of Toronto called Scarborough, their issues are completely different. You go somewhere into Toronto Center, the issues are totally different. You know, the reality is that although we're one nation, we're so large in terms of landmass, and we have different pockets have different interests, different pockets have different pain points, different pockets have different things which are beneficial to them.
Yeah, I'm noticing that now,
Right?
right
And
here today.
that's a reality. There's no one solution fits all.
Okay, so what about, like, what, you have no previous political experience, is that correct?
No, not in politics, but I have leadership experience. I've been president of various dental associations, medical and dental associations. So leadership roles I have partaken in the past with success, but true politics, no. I am not. I don't consider myself a politician. I consider myself a problem solver. I consider myself someone who can bring consensus, listen to the voices of other individuals, and bring forward something which can be better for people at large.
No, and just for clarification, that wasn't a criticism. I find it's a benefit, it's a plus when people aren't part of the political establishment.
Absolutely, I'm not part of the political establishment. Uh, I am part of everyday citizens who are doing their best to make a living, to take care of their family, to be a good neighbor, to be a good professional. But I have decided that I no longer want to sit in the sidelines and complain. If you want to make a little bit, if you want to make change, well, you have to start by changing yourself, by doing something yourself. And that's why I am getting involved.
So you mentioned that you have children. Are you married as well, if you don't mind me asking?
Yes, I'm happily married. It's been around 23 years. I have a son who's 20. He is studying at the Ivy School of Business in London, Ontario, and my daughter is now applying to universities.
That's cool. Good father. You got your kids set up. Where I was going with that question is, how did that conversation go when you went to your wife and you're like, I'm thinking of running for a party that's like an outsider party for politics?
Despite the fact that the People's Party of Canada right now is not a mainstream party, its philosophy, its platform is a solid platform. It's not, it's a party which will allow its candidates to be what they're supposed to be, a representative of those people who have elected that person. And what's better than that, as opposed to having your voice muzzled by being in a bigger party, which will just allow you to simply toe the party line and do nothing else. So when I had the conversation with my wife, who is not very politically inclined, she trusted me and she said, do your level best.
That's very supportive of her. That's good. Again, for the audience, I can't keep looking at the laptop here. So if I don't bring up your questions, it's nothing personal. This is going to be one of the less interesting episodes on my end, anyway. Not on my guest's end. I'm in BC right now. The Conservative Party, they did something really bad where they tried to parachute in a candidate that the association didn't want. And the association said, no, we don't accept this. And the party tried to just force the issue, and it got into the media, and the party had to actually back away. So when you say, like, toe the party line, like this stuff is actually happening. Like, this isn't just exaggeration. Do you see anything like that happening in your area?
Well, I know as a matter of fact, we have a candidate in a neighboring riding who, and it's on the record, he gathered 4,000 to 5,000 new members for the Conservative Party of Canada. Wasn't even given an opportunity to be in the nomination race. And how is that fair? How is that democracy? It's not. And I'm not sure if that's a one-off, this time only, but that is the reality. That's what's happened. It also happened last election cycle where there was another riding in Caledon where an individual won fair and square, but upon his acceptance speech his opportunity was taken away from him. So that is of concern. So that has not been my experience with the People's Party. I have been vetted. I have been asked very tough questions and fair questions. I mean, the party has thoroughly vetted, at least myself, and it wasn't a cakewalk. And they want to bring those individuals who could serve to be a good voice for the people they represent.
Well, what was the interview process like for you?
With the People's Party?
Yes.
So it was a long. Obviously, there was some paperwork which had to be done. Which I would assume is standard, but then there was some interview processes where tough questions were asked, and it wasn't and the questions which were put out to me, they wanted truthful answers as opposed to what the party wanted to hear, which I believe is very important, because you need in your representatives honesty and integrity. Those characteristics are of utmost value. And I was allowed to speak what I believed would be best for the people that I represent. And I was even asked that, let's say our party has a particular policy, but your constituents want you to take another position. And I said that I will take the position of my constituents, and I will explain that to the party. And although that didn't go with party line, it was acceptable. Would that be acceptable in another party? I do not know.
No, that's a very reasonable thing for the party to take. Like, I think that's a very reasonable position. I'm just trying to think, like, for my riding, there's several things within the People's Party platform that I definitely wouldn't open with, like DEI, I would if there was mothers in the room, but I generally wouldn't lead with that. Oil and gas, I wouldn't. Gun rights, there we go. I'm in an
Mhm.
affluent neighborhood, so I wouldn't lead with that. But that doesn't mean that I oppose it. But it's still a valid point.
Absolutely. Listen, one thing which is great in this platform is the getting rid of capital gains tax. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful policy which will allow entrepreneurs to create employment, to create bigger businesses, to create an internal ecosystem where they can grow, hire more people, hire more Canadians, be more productive. I think that's a wonderful system, a wonderful policy.
So on that same note of removing the capital gains policy, I just want to shift to the tariffs right now,
Mhm.
and but more specifically, like how we got this capital flight to the U.S. So people come here, you get educated, or you're born here, you're educated, and then you go to the U.S. to work. Off the top of your head, like besides the capital gains, removing that tax, like is there anything else that we can do to retain that capital here?
You mean the brain drain that we're having, or the capital drain as well, or
I
both?
call it capital. Sorry, human capital. The brain drain.
You see, you have to understand why is it that individuals go to perhaps some of the best universities in the world, which are right here in Canada, but choose to be gainfully employed in the US. Well, the reason is because in the US, you're not penalized for working hard. You work hard, you make more money. And sometimes it's not just money, sometimes it's freedom. And the perception is that in the US, you have more freedom with your taxes, you have more freedom with your work. In Canada, when you work because of our graduated tax system, if you work double, do you take home double? No. So that's you got to create a level playing field if you want individuals to stay here. If you create a play field here which is not going to allow for productivity, well, you're not going to get productivity. It's just the rules that the government has set up. They've set up rules where more productivity is penalized. How do you intend on competing with a place which actually rewards you for working hard? It's a simple question. The answer is a simple policy change, but nobody wants to look at it.
No, I like your argument. I'm sort of the same thing where uh, if you penalize people for working hard, eventually they're just going to stop working. That's what I
Absolutely.
did. I shut my company
Absolutely.
down.
Right? You've got to give incent. You've got to create a playing field where what you want as a nation is incentivized. You want you want individuals to be productive members of society. Well, you have to promote that. You have to create a playing field where there people can prosper. If you want to eliminate crime, well, you have to penalize those people who perform the crime, who do something wrong. It's about the system that you set up. Our system is not set up, at least in my view, to reward those who want to work hard, to reward entrepreneurship, to reward individuals who do the right thing. It seems like the government has said everything opposite to what they should be doing, and I'm not sure why. It doesn't make sense to me.
I kind of see part of the reason that this is probably not the only reason.
Mhm.
The people that are paying for the services are not the ones that decide what services and how many services. I'm talking about property tax. You
Mhm.
own land, you pay for the majority of the taxes in the province. But when you vote, everybody gets one vote. So there's more tenants than landowners, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Well, that's a reality, but the truth of the matter is, it, it's a symbiotic relationship. You need landlords so that there could be tenants, because the government can't do everything. The government can't. You need entrepreneurship. You need individuals who have the capacity to make things in this country. You need individuals to invest in this nation. No one's going to invest and no one is going to take a risk when they're penalized if they do well. No one's going to do it. That's why you're going to have a flight of capital, real capital, human capital to places where they believe they're treated well. That's a simple reality.
So, sort of on the same theme, but more aligned with your profession, I wanted to, on the theme of overregulation, I wanted to talk about healthcare.
Okay.
It's kind of the same thing. Like it's regulated and controlled by the government. It's just airtight. I call it a cartel. The College of Physicians, they decide how many doctors are created every year. Is that the reason that our healthcare system is so poor, or is there something else as well?
Our healthcare system has the issues that it has because we are not allocating resources in an efficient manner. Efficiency is everything. I have a private clinic, and I'll give you an anecdotal example. I have a private clinic. When we perform surgeries, at times we have to use sutures at the end of the procedure to close wounds up. One suture we can use to do about 3 to 5 stitches. In the hospital, one suture I have seen is used for 1 stitch. So it's inefficient. It's inefficient. The first thing is catch the inefficiencies. That's low-hanging fruit. Catch the inefficiencies. We don't wish to do that. If you don't catch the inefficiencies, if in a small, medium business, you don't catch the inefficiencies of your business, how long will your business survive? It won't. Not in the long term. That's the real world. In government, we have inefficiency upon inefficiency upon inefficiency. And the current regime is such that keep on going to the taxpayer. Keep on going to the taxpayer. There's this thing called elasticity. You can only take an elastic so far and stretch it so far until it breaks. A lot of Canadians are at that breaking point. That's why, be it healthcare, be it other facets, the government has to get a little bit more lean so people can do what they want with their money that they have earned. If you keep on going to the electorate and taxing them every single corner they turn to, you think they're going to want to be productive? You think they're going to want to stay here? I doubt it.
Man, I've known so many people in the last 5 years that have left. And like everything was bad. COVID was sort of the last nail in the coffin. But they've gone to Mexico, they've gone to the US, they've gone to Costa Rica, they've gone to Europe. Do you feel anything like this? Have you heard of similar stories?
I have colleagues of mine who have great careers here. They've made great assets. They're putting their children through university, and once that's done, they're out. Why? When they were productive members of this society, when they set up their businesses here, or they worked in meaningful positions here, their whole life, their whole friends, the whole ecosystem is here, but they want to leave. Why? Because they can't. And these are people who I believe are upper middle class. They want to leave because they believe that it's not worth staying here and getting diluted at every single corner you go with taxes, and getting penalized. They don't like it, and they're out. They're going to go where their money treats them well. It's simple. They worked hard for their money, whatever they have been able to save, whatever assets they have, they're going to deploy those assets in the later part of their life where they believe those assets can make their remaining life one of ease, one of where they don't have to deal with all the other issues that we're dealing with, where they feel it's safer, where they feel that whatever money they pay in terms of taxes, they're getting something in return. Listen, payment, the reality of life is, Whenever you go out and purchase something, a transaction occurs. You're giving something to get something in return. A simple question I have, as a taxpayer, you feel the pinch that money is going out. Are you confident that you're getting the best value for your tax dollar?
No.
And I believe a majority of Canadians will feel the same way. Listen, it's easy, it's very easy, I understand, to criticize. I understand that. I am not going to take this opportunity to criticize individuals who are in power. But I am going to criticize the policies that are there which have created this environment. If we do not make a change, if we do not stand up and realize that something is going wrong, we will get deeper and deeper into this problem. Individuals will feel disheartened. More individuals will, those who can afford it, will leave. Those who can't afford to leave, well, they're going to be disgruntled. That's not fair. That's not what this nation is about. And given the fact that we're such a rich nation in terms of resources, in terms of landmass, in terms of what God has given us, if you have good leadership, our people can feel great. And I know they can. We need good leadership, a good vision, not election cycle politics vision, not every 4 years. You need a 20-year vision, 20 years. And we all have to work at it together. And if we do that, we will be in the greatest nation there is.
I wanted to add one other thing. I was born in Iran, and when I look at Iranians that come here, something happens that we don't really talk about. They want to live here, which means they want to spend their money here, but then they always go back to Iran because they want to work there, which means they want to make their money there. And at first, this sounds logical from the government's perspective, right? They're bringing their money here and they're spending it here. But what we really should be asking is, why the hell aren't they working here? Like, why is it that myself as well, I went outside of the country to work? Like, why we're doing something wrong here, and when we should be getting people to come here to work, we're forcing people to go somewhere else to work.
I believe that the plight of individuals from Iran, it's most likely they're feeling the same points that I've already discussed. Payment individuals, majority of individuals, they do want to have a purpose in their life, right? Whether it comes through their vocation, whether it comes through their family, whether it comes through their education. But as human beings, you are not going to gravitate towards something, put undue effort when you do not see a result. That is just a fundamental psychological fact, right? You're not going to do the same thing over and over again if you're not getting anywhere. And that's where we are. The wheels are spinning, but we're not getting anywhere.
It's like an episode of the Flintstones before the car moves.
And listen, I'm not a pessimist, and we are in a beautiful nation. We're in a great country. This nation has given me everything. It's the place I was born. It's the place that I got educated. It's a place when I come back home, when I'm traveling, I love my country. I love my country. And you only stand up for something you care about. If you don't care about something, you're not gonna invest your time, your effort. I care about this nation. I know for a fact that when I was growing up, I had a good feeling in my heart. My parents were immigrants from India. They worked hard. They worked hard to put food on the table for myself and my sister. We knew that if the wheels were spinning for us, we'd get somewhere. And
No,
I'm
it's
afraid
true.
that's not the case anymore. but it's going to change because we need individuals who love this nation to stand up, and we got to come together. We can't divide. We got to come together. And it's all of it. This is our country. It's not the political elite's country. It's our country. And we have to tell those people who represent us that I want you to take my country and make it amazing, because that's what it is.
You touched on something important there. It's almost, they have a sense of arrogance where they think that the institutions and the infrastructure that our tax dollars built somehow belongs to them. I'm talking
No,
about highways, and electricity, electric grid, like power plants, dams. Like this is the people's. It doesn't belong to the government.
this is the people. This is ours. It's for Canadians to use, to Canadians to enjoy, Canadians to be proud of. You see, the reality is that a lot of people in power believe that they are the caretakers, and it is them who can decide all the policies. They forget that they're working for the individuals. A position in government is that you are a public servant. You are serving those people who you are fortunate enough to represent. That is your position. That is your job. It is not your job to go in and affect policies which do nothing for the people around you. If you've made the lives of those people you're representing miserable, then are you a good leader?
I would say you're not a good leader, but you're the Prime Minister of Canada. Former. Vageesh, what about, now on the segueing from that joke, did you watch the leadership convention the other night?
I did not watch the leadership convention. I heard it over I was on the radio. I was running errands, but I heard a lot of things on the radio. I believe it was on CFRB 1010, and it seemed like it was a clean sweep for Mr. Carney. 85%, I believe, some very high.
I didn't get that far. I got to Jean Chrétien's speech and I almost killed myself.
That speech was intended for liberals at an internal liberal event. Listen, when it comes to liberals, conservatives, NDP, Green, People's Party of Canada, all of these parties, anyone who is partaking in Canadian politics must have one thing very clear in their mind: that you're doing it for the people. You're here to serve. You've got to make tomorrow better than today. That's what the legacy has to be. The legacy does not have to be that you've been in power. You've got to make a positive difference. You've got to make things better. And in these internal party conventions and so on and so forth, they're talking to their base. But you have to look at every single Canadian. You've got to do it for every single Canadian. Jean Chrétien, when he was in power, he did what he believed was right. But the last 10 years has been nothing other than a malaise in this country. We've got to get out of it. We've got to get out of it.
Yeah, things have gotten really bad. I was looking at like investment in everything other than property. It dropped off a cliff shortly before Trudeau came in, like 2014. The GDP has gone down per capita. Everybody knows that our provinces are poorer than the poorest Mississippi state in the US. I don't know, it's not really a question, but thoughts?
And that happened in the last decade. And the unfortunate truth is, if it took us 10 years to get into this situation, even if we start today, it's going to take at least 10 years to get out of this situation. And it's a stark reality, but it is a reality. It is a reality that we unfortunately need to come to grips with. But that means that we've got to affect change now. We've got to affect change today and do the best that we can. Otherwise, the deeper the hole you're in, the harder it is to get out. And I'm afraid that change has to happen. Good change, positive change, a 20-year vision.
To continue your analogy, the Liberal Party, not only are they not digging out, they're digging themselves deeper down.
The Liberal Party of Canada has been in power. Some of their policies have, again, hurt the growth of this country. You've got to understand, you got to listen, you got to play the cards you've been dealt. Mr. Trudeau was approached by Japan, by Germany, when this war started between Russia and Ukraine, to sell oil or gas to these entities, to these countries. However, our prime minister refused because he claimed that it wasn't good for the environment. Well, I have a question for you. Is a war going on and people buying oil from where the war is going on and upmarking it and selling it back to other players, is that good for the environment? It's not. So this pretext that they have that everything has to be done for the environment, and you take Canadians and you put them on a back burner, that's not good for anybody. And these policies have to change. Again, you got to look at the big picture. And the big picture cannot just be towing party lines. You got to look at what's good for the nation. And respectfully so, it's not good for the nation. The reason why we're in this position with the US is because we have not traded with anybody other than the US. When you go to business school, the first thing they say is don't have one customer which is so big that if they pull their business from you, you go bankrupt. That's what our nation has done.
Yep, and now we're suffering the consequences of that.
Yeah. And it's not that easy all of a sudden to to start trading with other countries. It's a process. It takes years of negotiation, years and years of getting these relationships before you could have these trade deals. But if each time someone comes to you and says, I want to trade with you, and you say, no, nah, no, well, this is the position you're in. These things have to change. And until they don't change, listen, I believe this is, I'm not happy with what's happening with these tariffs. It's hurting Canadians. Counter tariffs are going to hurt us even more. I mean, it sounds great that we have strong leadership and they're putting on counter tariffs, but those counter tariffs are going to hurt Canadians. But if we are going to we are unfortunately going to have to go through this pain. But I hope we learn a lesson. And the lesson is we need diversification. We need to be a global player. Canada, in the last decade, has lost the respect it once had on the global stage. We have no respect anymore. Wherever you go, there used to be a time where individuals would be proud to say they're Canadians. In fact, I know, again, anecdotally, individuals who would be from America, when they would go outside, they would say, we're from Canada.
That's I remember that. I remember that, yeah.
That's no longer the case. But it will be the case. It will be the case again, because we are going to affect good leadership. It'll take time, but it's going to take commitment from everybody. And I can tell you one thing, when we, as Canadians, put our minds to it, we can affect change, and we will affect change, positive change.
Let me pick your brain. You mentioned Ukraine. What's your view on that Ukraine-Russia conflict?
Like all conflicts, I think there should be no conflict. I believe it's a tragedy what's going on in that part of the world. At the same time, I also believe that regardless of that being a tragedy, it should have ended extremely soon, but it didn't. Because I believe that this, in essence, has been a proxy war. It's been a war that should not have started, and it's a war that, unfortunately, which has and should come to an end. There's too much. There's too much disaster going on in that part of the world. We're isolated from it because we're miles and miles away. But that's not good for our planet. Canadian, this Trudeau government, which has this green agenda. I just want to know: is it a green agenda when all those bombs go off there? Is that good for the environment? It's not, right? So this war, it needs to stop. I don't know. I don't know the internal politics of why it started. There's theories on both sides, but it's got to stop.
No, you touched on an important point there. Bombs are not good for the environment. They
No,
release a lot of CO2, and not to mention the human loss.
absolutely, absolutely. It's gonna take decades for that part of the world to come back. It's not fair, but it's true. It's a reality.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know. I feel for those guys. It's a really, really bad situation Ukraine has been pushed into. The population has been kind of decimated. Their economy they've had to sell everything to the US or Russia now.
And that's not good precedent, because if this war ends and borders are changed, what's the precedent it's showing for other countries which have might? It's not a good precedent. It can change the world order as we know it.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, the US has already signaled that they're willing to accept that we're in a bipolar, no longer or multipolar world, not unipolar, which is I think why Trump is pulling back. But you're right. This was a war that was, I'll put it delicately, Ukraine was kind of tricked into, and now they've lost part of their country.
And that's the beginning. That's just the beginning, because what you see with Ukraine is unfortunate. But if this ends the way that it's being proposed that it'll end, with the change of borders, who's going to stop China from invading Taiwan? Can that happen? People have talked about it. You don't. That's not good. Then that means might is right. And anyone who's mighty has the right to take over someone who's not, even sovereign nations. And if that happens at such a top level, what if it has trickle down effects in your local area, where the person down the street who has the most amount of money or has the most amount of resources can take over someone who doesn't? That's not a world that I wish to live in.
You reminded me, you mentioned the person at the end of the street that has the most money. Did you see this news thing from Surrey, BC? The drug cartel tried to raid someone's house. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't. Tell me a bit about it.
I only caught a glimpse of it last night. An East Indian gentleman, I think, the ones living in the house.
Uh-huh.
They called the police because another group of East Indian gentlemen were trying to rob them. And then
Okay.
the police showed up, and there was like they crashed in the cop cruiser, and then they got on foot. They ran away. And like Vancouver, BC police, they're not like American sheriffs that are built like Marines. The one guy's like chasing him like Benny Hill. The other guy like crashed his own cop car, I think. But this guy and his family, they had something 1 million to 5 million in cash in their home. I was like, whoa, that's suspicious.
Maybe they were robbed because somebody had an inside story that they had that type of money at home.
I would imagine, I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but the news clip I saw this morning mentioned it was something to do with the drug cartel. $1 million in cash is excessive. Like, even if you're old school, you can keep 100 grand at home. not like 1, 2, 5 million. And they showed the safe that they opened. They tried to drag out. It was like $20 bills rolled up in elastic bands. It was really sketchy.
That's an unfortunate story.
Yeah, yeah. Welcome to British Columbia. Yeah, sorry there. I kind of hijacked the episode. What about the PPC policies? I'm going to put you on the spot. Like, are there any that you particularly agree with more so than the others? Like, what are your favorites?
Well, my favorite one definitely, I apologize, is the abolition of capital gains tax,
Mm.
because I really believe that's going to be a game changer. You mentioned previously that the only asset class that we have in this country is real estate. Well, what if you incentivize through capital gains policies to invest in business, to invest in research and development, to invest in productivity, so that there's other classes that Canadians can invest their hard-earned money in and make a decent return, as opposed to housing, which is, yes, it's an investment to one in one way, but it's also a necessity. So abolition of capital gains is something which is extremely, extremely dear to me. Uh, in terms of the PPC's immigration policy, I apologize. A lot of individuals, a lot of people paint this policy to be extreme. Well, having fair, legal immigration, controlled immigration, is an excellent policy. That policy is what created our country to begin with. So that's another wonderful policy that the PPC has. The fact that the PPC says that for now, put a stop on all immigration, well, that makes sense as well. If you know you have a problem, do you continue to keep on doing what you do, or do you stop, you pause, you assess the situation, assess the problem, come up with a solution, and then go from there? That's what the PPC is saying. It's not saying stop immigration completely forever. It's saying we have a problem. Let's identify the problem. Let's fix the problem. Let's come up with a solution to the problem so that immigration is fair. Now, a lot of individuals believe that that stopping immigration for the time being or reducing it is a bad thing. Well, it's not a bad thing, because think about the immigrants who come here. Think about a person who's trained as a medical doctor, a lawyer, and they've come here for a promise of a great land, and they can't do what they're supposed to do or what they're trained to do. Is that fair for the person who's coming here as an immigrant? Just because you have a large immigration quota? It's not fair for them either. It's not a fair situation for both parties involved. So that's another great policy that the PPC has, and it's being misconstrued to say that it's an extreme right wing. It's not. It's a good policy. Do things properly. What's wrong? What's wrong with that policy? To do whatever you want to do, but do it properly. And if you're doing it wrong, stop, pause, reassess, fix the issue, and start it again.
I'm coming to the conclusion that our immigration policy in Canada is a scam. They're saying to the immigrants, the foreigners, liquidate your assets, whatever money you've saved in your home country, bring it over here and invest it in something, and you'll live in paradise. You'll have the best life ever. And they get over here and they're screwed, and they can't go back. Like, they've lost all their money here. They're stuck here in this country that's falling apart.
Majority of individuals sell a significant portion of their assets, if not all, to come here. And then they find out that what are they invested in? Housing, right? And then they find that, hey, oh my God, I'm taxed wherever I go. I have income tax. All right, fair enough. I have HST. I have gas tax. I have a luxury tax. I have property tax. You're taxed wherever you go. Now I have a carbon tax. Tax, tax, tax. And then they get tired. That's why some of them go back.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you forgot to mention the recycling levy. Have you come across that one?
No,
So
there's another tax, huh?
it's worse. It's more insidious than a tax. You buy a printer, and they're like, "Oh, you have to buy a recycling levy," but it's not a
Yeah,
tax; it's a service. So you get taxed on the levy.
absolutely. 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 These things have to change, payment. They have to change. People are waking up, and people will make that change because it's hurting them in their pocketbooks. And when things hurt in their pocketbooks, change comes. I just
No,
hope it comes sooner as opposed to later.
no, you're spot on. Yeah, it's kind of like an addict hitting rock bottom. I'm hoping that that rock bottom is this election cycle, so we can get some PPC candidates in. Otherwise, another four, heaven forbid, 8 years of ping ponging with the conservatives. Entrepreneurs are going to leave.
I believe, given the way the polls are these days, that there may not be the clear majority mandate to any one given party. Which means for the electorate out there, if you want your voice to be heard, vote for the candidate in your riding which you believe can represent you. Go down back to the basics. Whenever things in life get complicated, which they don't have to be, but when they do get complicated, if you go back to the basics, things do improve. Back to the basics. The system is such that there are many ridings in Canada. Elect a person, vote for that person who can be your voice, who can represent you, regardless of what party color they wear. Back to the basics, and you will see change will be affected. One voice, that's all you need. You need someone to represent you. And we've forgotten that. We've forgotten that because the mainstream media has always painted only two parties, the conservatives and the liberals. You need more voice. Look in Europe. There's more voice. So you need someone to be your voice. Vote for your voice.
Bumper sticker right there. There's your campaign slogan.
Vote for your
Your
voice.
voice. Yeah. Vageesh, that's a good. I guess we can end it there. We're at 52-minute mark. Can you tell the audience where can they go to learn more about you? How can they follow you? How can they get in touch with you? And most importantly, how can they donate to your campaign?
You can go to my website, vageeshsabharwal.com. You will find out all the information that you need to know. I just want to before I leave, let your audience know that, first of all, it's been a pleasure and an honor to have spent the last 54 minutes with you, Payman. Uh, I want to just be extremely clear that I love this country. And I cannot say more that this country has given me everything. And yes, I am not a politician, but I am a well educated, dedicated person who, if given an opportunity, will do my level best to make this country the amazing country it really is. And even if you don't support me or support the PPC, support your nation. This country it's really worth giving an effort and really loving this nation. I know we're in dark times, but they're not going to last. Nothing ever lasts forever. Nothing. We're gonna be great, but we need to do it together, and that's what I truly believe. And uh, and I again thank you for having me on this on this program. It means a lot to me. This is the first one I have ever done. And I apologize if I've gone off track, but I do one thing: go home with this in your mind, that there's a guy, his name is Vageesh Sabharwal. He loves this country. And I hope that a lot of Canadians are like me.
Well, Dr. Sabharwal, thank you very much for coming on. You're welcome back anytime, and I wish you the best of luck with your campaign.
To you as well, Payman. And thank you for everyone who tuned in. I highly appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye bye.